We are live in Studio B, celebrating Halloween to the fullest. We now welcome in CBS Sports college football insider and writer, friend of the program, Shehan Jeyarajah. Shehan, happy Halloween to you. How are you feeling on this Friday?
I'm feeling great. I feel a little bad I didn't get the memo about dressing up. So I don't know. Maybe we could pretend that this is Oscar or something. I don't know.
No problem. Yeah, we accept that offering for sure. Now, before we get to our first question, Shehan, we want to play back a portion of a comment you made about Bear Bachmeier and BYU back in August on our show.
Give him his flowers.
And specifically on the College Football Insiders podcast. Everybody listen to this.
If he is the guy, if he has truly separated himself as being somebody who could start week one, and by the way, we talked about Florida's tough schedule to start. BYU has a great schedule to start for a first-time quarterback. They could easily be 6-0 heading into that game against Utah. If they have upside at that position with a really good running back in LJ Martin, with a really good receiver room with Chase Roberts, and by the way, also his brother Tiger Bachmeier, who's a really good player, it changes a lot and maybe could help elevate BYU back into that contender tier.
Well. Here
nice.
we are.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, we've been playing trick or treat. That's very much a treat,
That's a treat.
Shehan. Incredible foresight right there. You said something similar on our program, too. You doubled down on what you said on the College Football Insiders podcast. How are you feeling about the progression of Bear Bachmeier, having seen him play in 8 actual games with the Cougars ranked in the top 10, now 8-0?
Well, I'll preface, people need to pay attention to CBSSports.com next week, but that's just a little bit of a tease.
Hey,
okay.
But what I will say is that, I think that the way that they have developed him over the course of the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season has been incredible. I mean, you sort of saw the progression happen in real time, where week one, they're running him a lot, not throwing him a lot. It slowly starts to build and build and build, and you see this kid get more and more confident. This is everything that I wanted to see from him as a first-year starting quarterback. He's avoided mistakes. He's been a factor in the running game. I think that he's earned the trust of his teammates. And I was fascinated to see, right? Game 5 of the season against Arizona, you're down in the fourth quarter. How does he handle that moment? Those are the moments where Jake Retzlaff last year stepped up to the occasion and led his team to victory. Well, Bear Bachmeier did the same thing. He did the same thing, of course, last week or 2 weeks ago against Iowa State. He has been big in those moments, and I think that he's let the other players on this team be great. And I think that's why BYU is sitting here with a chance to, of course, compete for a Big 12 title.
What do you make of BYU's 8-0? Because if they had style points like Indiana, maybe they'd be in the top 4 or 5. They don't have a win like the win at Oregon, for example. So the Cougars are hoping they're in Arlington in the Big 12 title game. They're hoping they're in the college football playoff. They've got some massive games with Texas Tech and Cincinnati on the road coming up. What do you make of BYU's 8-0?
Well, it's funny. We're sitting here the second year in a row. I'd make the case that BYU is the most underranked team in the country right now. And it's funny because, let's take a team like Georgia Tech, another team that's undefeated. I think if you put those resumes by each other, I'd take BYU pretty handily.
Amen.
Between those two teams. Now, Georgia Tech has sort of the nominal win over a Clemson team that people thought was good, So how do you balance those things if you are a neutral observer? But I think that BYU, one, has played at a level that's very impressive right now. I think that you look at this team, and I said this to some people, by the way, who are on campus. Last year, I had the conversation with BYU's coaches and players, and I said, this is kind of a no-name team, right? This is a team where nobody is necessarily, rising above the rest. They're just good at everything, and they ride that to victory. Well, this year, you look at national rankings, national standings, national stats, everybody is at the top of the boards. LJ Martin, top 10 in the country in rushing. Isaiah Glasker, one of the best linebackers in the country. Like, they are continuing to develop guys at a high level, and compared to the 2024 team that obviously was exceptionally good and won 11 games, this is a team that feels like it has even more standouts and even more stars, which to me maybe means that they have more upside even than a team that just went 11-2.
Shehan Jeyarajah is on BYU Sports Nation. The Cougars get the perfect time for a bye week to try and get healthy. LJ Martin is questionable for the Texas Tech game. So, Shehan, if LJ isn't 100%, and let's say he doesn't play, what does that do for BYU's chances to go into Lubbock and win, given that BYU figured it out and threw the ball a ton against Iowa State?
Totally. And I mean, it's not going to be a death sentence by any means if LJ Martin can't play, but I do think that it changes the way that you're able to attack this Texas Tech defense if they are able to run the ball at a high level. You look at Texas Tech right now, I obviously profiled them before the season, and I told people this team is going to be dominant in the front seven and on the defensive line. And if you look at our midseason CBS Sports All-America team, 3 of the 7 midseason All-America spots in the front 7 went to Texas Tech players. 3 on 1 team, and that team, of course, the Texas Tech team, that was bottom 10 in the country in defense just last year. So this is a defense that I think that you have to find ways to challenge in different places, because the reality is, if you just play them head up, I just think that they're too good for almost any team in the Big 12 right now to handle just on their own. So I do think that having LJ Martin would be a big deal. I think that if he's out, they're going to have to try some different stuff. I think you're going to have to run the quarterback a little bit more. I think you're going to have to move the pocket. Of course, there are the playmakers on offense that are going to be able to cause some problems, but I do think that you need your playmakers to be at their best going against a team like Texas Tech.
We saw this last year. BYU got to 9-0, stumbled to the finish, didn't make Arlington, lost the tiebreakers. We're hoping BYU avoids that. Certainly, at 2 losses, you're probably in the tiebreaker mixer. If you're 0 or 1 losses, you're probably in Arlington. So what's the path for BYU to get to the Big 12 title game, in your opinion?
I mean, at this point, I do think it would be pretty disappointing for them to not be there with the way that they've played. And also, by the way, 2 huge tiebreakers, one against Utah, one against Iowa State. I think those are 2 of the top 5 or 6 teams in the Big 12. And they're, like you said, going to be most likely in that 2-loss mix. So, heading forward, of course, I think that Texas Tech is the obvious, one of the biggest games of the year, maybe the biggest game of the season in the Big 12. But then that Cincinnati game as well. That's going to be a game where you don't just need to pick up a win, but also picking up a tiebreaker would be huge for their chances to make it. But 2-2, I think, probably gets them through most likely, but just with the tiebreakers that they have. But I see 3-1 being on the table for them. I think that they should absolutely take advantage of that. And there are some other tricky games. I mean, TCU, I think, is not a bad team, but I do think that BYU has kind of elevated itself to, if you can find a way to split that Texas Tech and that Cincinnati game, they should have no real trouble being in Arlington.
Sean, we were just discussing the rootables for BYU fans, meaning which teams do BYU fans need to root for to help the Cougars have the best chance of getting to Arlington and to the college football playoff. So 2 games in particular are interesting. Cincinnati at Utah, Texas Tech at Kansas State. Which of those teams need to win to best help BYU's status?
I mean, when you're talking about status, it's got to be Texas Tech against Kansas State, because we need that game between BYU and Texas Tech to be one that everybody is watching, that everybody is talking about, that everybody wants to know the result of. And not just, by the way, because I'm also going to be down there in Lubbock, which I'm very excited for. But, again, it changes perception when you have these nationally watched games. I mean, I'd even say, for example, you have the Texas Tech versus Utah game early in the season, and that was a really highly watched game. Well, I think for some reasons because of that, Utah was kind of viewed as a little diminished when they played BYU, even though I think that Utah's the 3rd best team in the Big 12, to be frank. But it changes the way that people approach those games when a team has a loss versus when they don't. If Texas Tech is coming off of a loss to Kansas State and they're a 2-loss team, one, they have basically eliminated themselves, in my mind, from being an at-large team for the college football playoff. And 2, I think that it also changes because you're probably, instead of playing a borderline top 10 team, you're probably instead playing like the 21st ranked team in America. So I think that the biggest thing for this weekend is BYU wants as many eyeballs on themselves as possible in the stretch run. So I think that Texas Tech really needs to take care of business.
How far do you think you could throw a tortilla?
Good question. 30 yards? I don't know. What kind of elevation are we starting from? Like,
whatever Lubbock is.
No, I'm saying, like, are we up in the
from the press
200
box
levels? Yeah, press box. I think we can make it launch a little bit.
Out the window. Don't tell Joey McGuire. Is there a path for a 2-loss Big 12 team to make it into the college football playoff? And if so, what is it?
I think that a 2-loss team is going to have some trouble, to be honest. Now, let's be clear about that, though. Let's say 2-loss heading into championship weekend. I think that an 11-1 team that loses a conference championship game will be okay. We saw SMU have a version of that last year. I don't think that the College Football Playoff Committee is going to punish you too much for two reasons. One, because, like, again, you're playing an extra game that other people aren't playing. And second of all, I think that they don't want to set the precedent that you want to miss these games, right? And so last year, we see SMU make it in despite losing the game. As long as you don't get, I mean, look, if you get embarrassed, that's obviously a different situation. But I think that if a team loses their second game in the Big 12 title game, I think that they'll still be in good shape. Let's say, for example, let's say that BYU comes through and beats Texas Tech and goes through and finishes the season 13-0, and Texas Tech picks up a second loss, right? Like, well, I think that changes the equation just a little bit. So if BYU loses, for example, their second game in Arlington, I think they'd still be in pretty good shape.
Shehan, most importantly, how would you rank the costumes you see before you on BYU Sports Nation today?
To be honest, I think that Dwight's got a little bit of an edge over the gym. I said this before the show. I feel like the gym costume looks just a little bit like Dwight dressing up as Jim, which is actually a great meta costume. But I do think that I give Dwight the slight edge there.
Thank you.
It's the hair, isn't it? It's got to be the hair.
I knew I liked you, Shehan.
Commitment.
Shehan, great to talk to you, man. Be well. Enjoy Halloween in the Texas area, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. Shehan Jeyarajah, back on BYU Sports Nation.
I knew I liked that guy.